Welcome to Business Talk, our weekly University of Rio Grande OSU South Center's podcast show. We are here at the University of Rio Grande TV studio. Not only are we doing live internet radio through Blog Talk Radio, but we are also live on Jackson Educational Access Channel and Channel 17 University of Rio Grande. Our podcasts are archived and placed on YouTube for viewing and listening again. Our mission is simple: to promote the University of Rio Grande and its diverse educational programs, promote the Ohio State University South Centers and its many business technology programs, promote the various small business and economic support organizations, and finally promote Southern Ohio, a great place to live, learn, and enjoy life to the fullest. The co-hosts are myself, Jason Winters, Director of the Center for Small Business Entrepreneurship, and Mike Thompson, Instructional Design and Media Services Director. Both of us are with the University of Rio Grande. Also, our co-host Patrick Dengel, Business Development Specialist, and Kimberly Rouse, Program Assistant, both with the OSU South Centers. Pat, welcome to our show today.
Well, thank you. You know, Nate had, and he apologized for being there. Nate had a soccer team, a soccer meet, and he was torn between should he, as a coach, go there or should he come here because of our distinguished guest.
And you can see that we've been abandoned today, so he is obviously with the soccer team. But that gives you a chance to come out from behind the camera and join us in the studio today.
Well, you know, it's a great pleasure to have our guest today, and I wouldn't miss this for the world.
Well, I'll let you introduce Tom to
okay.
our viewing audience.
You know, Jason, the Ohio State University South Centers is an intricate partner within Southern Ohio, and many agricultural research and business programs have helped to create a very good climate and environment in the business and the farming and things of that nature here in Southern Ohio. Our podcasts, as you know, come with the OSU Rio collaboration, and we acquired Dr. Tom Worley. His schedule is very, very busy, and today we're going to get a chance to discuss. Tom's going to talk a little bit about the background, about the research programs, about the different business programs. And so, Tom, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Pat. It's a pleasure to be here.
First of all, tell us about yourself.
Well, Pat, I don't want to take a lot of time on this part, but just in brief, I am a native of Ohio, raised up in Fayette County, not that far from where we are here at Rio Grande today, and attended schools in Fayette County at Miami Trace High School, and then went to Ohio State University to study agriculture, and ended up majoring in agricultural economics, and finished that up and worked in industry for a couple of years, and then went back to Ohio State and studied for a master's degree, and focused on the grain industry in Ohio was my research project, and looking at the changes that were taking place in the grain industry and a lot of consolidation of many small elevators, and certainly that impacted Southern Ohio as well. And then the distances that we transport grain, we were studying these differences with unit trains, greater reliance on the river with barge traffic, and still issues that we are under today. And at the conclusion of that master's degree, I actually went out and farmed on my own, and as a operator on a share lease of land, and was engaged directly in farming for about 8 or 9 years, and ended up back at Ohio State University on a fellowship to do PhD work, and again in agricultural economics, dealing with marketing and trade. And I finished that up and landed out in the state of Washington, which kind of gave me a little bit of diversity in agriculture compared to here, because the state of Washington is a very, very diverse state when it comes to the agriculture, and a lot of that is due to the ability to irrigate. And of course, a lot of the land, great Columbia River project that was built and supplies water to about 500,000 acres, along with many other smaller irrigation projects as well as deep wells to pump water. Enables Washington to grow a lot of specialty crops, including potatoes, carrots, onions, a lot of tree fruits. We're familiar with Washington apples, but they also have many apricots, cherry trees, and variety of things can be grown in Washington. And my work was at the university as a faculty member, again in the Department of Agricultural Economics. I'd had a statewide extension program in agribusiness development, and that's where I got to know a lot of these industries, trying to help them with their marketing and with their business development and marketing issues through that activity. As well, I was a teacher of agribusiness classes. I taught the agribusiness marketing class as I was there those 10 years, as well as agribusiness finance, agribusiness management, and farm management while I was at Washington State. But the opportunity to return to Ohio always beckoned, and actually I came back just roughly 12 years ago to work at OSU South Centers at Piketon, Ohio. And of course it was a little bit different role than I had been used to, more of a general role, but still dealing with business and agricultural development, rural development. And these are my roots, as you can tell, and my background very much in agriculture and business development.
Oh, very good. For some of the listening audience, they have heard about the OSU South Centers. As a matter of fact, many individuals that have gone past the center say, "Oh, you're the place with all the ponds."
Mm-hmm.
Care to share really what goes behind those ponds?
Okay, sure. It's a pleasure to. The South Centers is, depending on the program, is the degree to which we represent the university. And aquaculture, where you're talking about the ponds, Patrick, we are the aquaculture program for the entire university. In other words, we have all of the aquaculture facilities right here at Piketon that are involved with aquaculture development in Ohio. And that includes not only the ponds, which I believe we're up to 16 different ponds at our facility, and we can do replicated research trials by having 12 ponds, quarter acre each, that are exactly the same, so we can run replications, which makes the research results more statistically valid than if we just do a demonstration or a side-by-side trial even. And then in conjunction with the ponds, we have a fish hatchery on site, as well as a laboratory for genetics and a second laboratory for fish histology, which is really the kind of the post-mortem of looking at what the fish have developed internally. And so we're a pretty comprehensive program, and our focus is to develop yellow perch as an aquaculture species. And of course, anyone that has traveled to Lake Erie or fished in Lake Erie or restaurants along Lake Erie would be familiar with yellow perch, and including even many firehouse fish fries and church fish fries and organizations. That is the preferred species for many of these activities. And our idea is to try to develop the yellow perch as an aquaculture species to be readily available to consumers because it's readily accepted. It has the consumer acceptance. It's known as a quality fish, and people enjoy it very much. And there's various hurdles to overcome with yellow perch in terms of culturing them in a commercial operation, if you will. And one of the big things is that they're relatively slow growing, so it takes 2 years to get a market size yellow perch, which tends not to be that large, about 11 inches long, is marketable size. And right now, it's been taking 2 years to reach that. Now, our program, with the genetic improvement that we have done, has decreased that time significantly. We're not down to 1 year, but we've significantly decreased it below that 2-year threshold through genetic improvement. In other words, we have identified fish that grow much, much faster than the traditional yellow perch, the wild caught, and the stocks that typically get stocked into ponds. So we've improved upon that about 35 to 40% at this point. So we haven't cut it in half yet, but we're approaching that, and we continue to work to improve yellow perch as a species. Secondary species that we're working with is bluegill. And at first, when our team came up with the idea that we were going to focus on bluegill, I was asking the question, well, bluegill are readily available. They're every farm pond, every kid, that's ever went fishing catches bluegill. But the opportunity commercially is really in our cities where there's big ethnic populations, and bluegill are known around the world as a highly desirable fish, even though there's not a lot of them, a lot of meat on each fish, but it's a very tasty fillet. And so those that would, take the time to clean bluegill and for consumption would realize that the flesh is very comparable to yellow perch. It's nice, white, firm flesh. Well, this is our goal, is to supply this ethnic market with bluegill. And the trick there, it turns out to be that the male bluegill grows twice as fast as the female. So our program on genetic improvement of the bluegill is to develop all male populations. And it turns out that fish, unlike mammals, we can actually determine the sex by some manipulation with some enzymes in the water that they swim in. So we've had success in producing all male populations of bluegill. Getting mixed up here between my perch and my bluegill. Anybody would know the difference on the stringer, that's for sure. But we have had success in producing these all male populations, which again, the economic situation changes dramatically when they're growing almost twice as fast as the females.
Yeah, I know that the aquaculture is just but one of many different centers that you have, and you had mentioned earlier that there is centers with an S at the end. What else do we?
So what's going on there with that S, huh? Yeah. Well, that's kind of interesting, and it gets kind of into the background of OSU South Centers. And the not to go real deep into the history, but just in a nutshell, we were created 21 years ago, and the original name was the Piketon Research and Extension Center. And as the name implies, it came out of our Ohio Agricultural Research and Development Center at Worcester, Ohio, and OSU Extension. And that continues to be the emphasis and the connections that we have directly to our College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Science on campus. And once we got up and running these 21 years ago, even though I wasn't around at that point, the opportunities to add programs, both in terms of breadth of programs and depth, became evident. And what came with that was an addition of centers along the way. And one of those is the Alternative Agricultural Enterprise Center, which is an extension center that formerly was located over at Hillsborough, Ohio in Highland County. And that was consolidated in and brought over to South Centers, and the personnel and the programs were very similar, had similar aims and goals, and so that's a second center. Then we were successful with the Ohio Department of Development of bringing a small business development center to Piketon as part of our operation, so that's a third center. There's a secondary program with the SBDC operation that is called Manufacturing and Technology SBDC, and the focus of that is to strictly look at manufacturers in the region, small manufacturers, but it's a second line item, if you will, in a contract with Ohio Department of Development. Then we applied to USDA Rural Development and were successful in bringing an Ohio Cooperative Development Center to Piketon that serves the state with assistance to develop cooperatives. And this is a type of business that many people here are familiar with, either through rural electric cooperatives. Many homes are served by rural electric cooperatives across southern Ohio, or credit unions are very predominant, and they're organized as cooperatives, and then local farm supply and marketing cooperatives. But we've taken that business model and expanded it through our Ohio Cooperative Development Center, and maybe we can talk about some of those new things, new endeavors in business that we've talked about. And actually then, just to finish up on the centers, I have two more that I'll just mention. One is our Endeavor Center, which is a business incubator facility, and this was built and opened in 2005. It's 7 years in the making, or it has been in existence 7 years, and it was about 7 years in the making prior to that as well, to get the concept down and get the partners in place and get the funding in place. But we were successful in building this facility. It's about 27,000 square foot building on our location We have 18 businesses that are resident there now. We call them our partners. We don't call them tenants. They're there for more than just real estate purposes to have a home, but they're really our partners, and we're trying to help them develop their business. And not only through what we do, but through what many other partners in the region bring to the table at OSU South Centers. And this includes even the business-to-business aspect of it, being there, rubbing shoulders. It's like a group of people that come to work every day. They learn from each other. The same with these business owners. They come to work every day, and if they're facing an insurance question or they're needing legal advice, they can turn to another small business and say, well, who do you use, or who do you use, and what bank do you use, and that sort of thing. And what kind of marketing techniques do you use? How are you making use of social media and the internet? All those aspects are part of what that Endeavor Center Business Incubator is about.
And I would assume that when they reach a certain financial level, they no longer potentially need as much in-depth service.
Right.
So that they're encouraged to.
Well, Patrick, you're exactly right on that. It's kind of like going into school. Sometimes you want some graduates, through your programs. And this is the same way with the Business Incubator, that ideally a company comes in and we're able to assist along with other partners. They become successful, get established, and in due time, and we don't put any specific time limit, but in an ideal world, that would be somewhere 3 to 4, maybe 5 years, that they would be strong enough financially and established enough in their market that they're able to exit the business incubator, go into the region and purchase real estate or lease real estate, set up a freestanding operation, and go ahead from there. And our fee structure is structured so that we stimulate that. We might start at a discounted rate to begin with to be part of our business incubator, but then that gradually increases until that financial incentive to be there is no longer available, and it makes as much financial sense to be out on their own. And we indeed have had several successful graduates, and one that we're especially pleased with chose to purchase some real estate just immediately adjacent to our facility, and I believe their construction project invested nearly $2 million in their headquarters, and they currently operate in 7 different states.
That
right
is fantastic.
there from Piketon, Ohio.
I know that when we have had the manager, Jerry Driggs, on the program, Jerry was telling us about being an award-winning center because business incubators are very difficult to not be
to succeed and be viable. Well, I think we're fortunate in many, many ways, and I think we all realize how fortunate we are, and it's through team effort and that network of partners that I've spoken of numerous times as I've talked about the business incubator that have brought that success. And I think the award-winning that you're referring to would be from the Economic Development Administration, which was U.S. Department of Commerce agency that put a majority or a big part of the funding, at least about 50% of what was invested to build the facility came from U.S. EDA funding. And they recognized us with the Rural Incubator of the Year award. I believe that was in 2007, if I'm not mistaken. And I think the reason that came was that our location is ideal in terms of transportation, for one thing. We're at the intersection, or just 2 miles east of the intersection of those 2 major 4-lane highways, U.S. Route 32 and 124. I guess they're both state routes, I correct myself. And U.S. 23 to the north-south. And also, those that know the region know that the U.S. Department of Energy's Portsmouth Gaseous Enrichment Facility, the uranium enrichment facility, which has been a big impetus for development in not only Pike County, but also Jackson, Scioto, Ross, those 4 counties, since the early 1950s when it opened. And that operation has gone through several transitions since the end of the Cold War. And what that brought about is many very, very well-trained engineers, physicists, technical people that either retired, maybe early, but maybe they were even downsized from their positions, but have this technical know-how to start businesses and be of service. And some of our biggest successes and many of our businesses that are in our facility have contracts or otherwise a partnership and a business arrangement due to the result of the Portsmouth plant being located. And of course now that's focused very much on cleanup and new technology to enrich uranium through the centrifuge facility. And indeed, several of those entities that have that work to do for the prime contractors and ultimately the Department of Energy of the U.S. are located in our facility. But our desire is to help local businesses, in other words, keep some of that payroll local and circulate that through other small businesses, because we know that kind of your base industries is what brings outside income. Well, that's those dollars that come to support from the Department of Energy, and then they circulate to the restaurants and to the real estate market and to the department stores and the tax system and the base there locally. So
it really sounds like there isn't just one factor that makes a business incubator. It's a number of different factors. You have to have the right business models. You have to have the supportive personnel, and it sounds like you have a lot of unique supportive people there.
Yep. Well, I think picking up on the supportive people, and I think what made the business incubator concept fit with us is I'd come back to the small business development assistance that I talked about earlier with the Ohio Department of Development. We were going out and meeting with businesses and consulting with them, helping them with their business plan, directing them to financial institutions and other organizations that can help them succeed. And the opportunity, well, gee, what would it be like if those businesses were right with us and we could deliver these services right at our location? And I think that led into this relationship and this team effort to help these businesses succeed.
I know that Southern Ohio is filled with a lot of great people. I think Jason and Mike, we have met a lot of unique businesses. We've met a lot of unique people. If the listening audience wasn't from Southern Ohio, Tom, what are a couple things that you would like people to know about Southern Ohio?
Well, that's an interesting question, Patrick, and one that I think I would answer this way, that people in Southern Ohio are very committed to the region. Those that are here for a reason. Either they have gone and returned. And like many of us, find that, okay, that other experience, that green grass, so to speak, maybe compared to after experiencing that, maybe it wasn't all that much greener than what we once knew. And I think people here are very dedicated to the place of their roots. And some have desired these strong enough desire and have simply stayed put. And I think that makes them even more committed to the region, and others that have maybe left and come back, but even others that have transferred here, that are native to other states or other regions of the country, come here and find a very satisfying way of life, if you will. And I think the natural beauty is one thing that keeps people here. The rolling hills, the natural resources, the many parks, lakes, outdoor recreational opportunities. We're all aware of the fishing, hunting opportunities, hiking, biking, trails, the Ohio River, the proximity to other states and those activities. But I think ultimately it just boils down to a place that captures people's hearts and offers a way of life that, I won't say it's, slower pace. It seems like everybody's pace is fast these days with the technology we have, but it does afford the opportunities to live in nature's beauty and to experience that on a daily basis.
Well, Tom, you've mentioned a lot about the research at the center, the Endeavor Center itself. Let's talk a little bit about the SBDC and some of the services that our small business development counselors offer to the community and to the small businesses. Small businesses out there, what can they expect to receive as far as help from the SBDC?
Sure. Yeah, well, I'd be glad to try to answer that one. I must confess that even though I'm an administrator and have worked with the program these number of years, I'll just confess that I've never been an SBDC counselor. So I want Patrick, who is an SBDC counselor, to help me out if I stub my toe and overlook something that should be plainly mentioned. But I think the way I would characterize it, Jason, what people can expect, they can engage with someone that has an objective point of view. Many times, business people, entrepreneurs, get very emotional about their business idea and are just ready to run forward. I think our counselors are able to sit and take an objective view and ask some questions to get them to think it through in advance. And I think that they will encourage them to work on their business plan, which means a written business plan. I know that we don't do business plans per se, pardon me, but we are able to supply them with plenty of templates, some examples, and things that they need to think about. Because it's not for the sake of getting something on paper, it's to stimulate that thought process of seeing that business on paper and thinking about what's going to separate my business from the other competitors. What's going to be my advantage? What's going to be my marketing edge, if you will, and my pricing, and what area am I going to serve? So I think there's that whole list of questions that are part of putting together a business plan that frames that whole discussion. I think they will also find someone that will link them to the most likely sources of financing, of legal counsel, of insurance, those ancillary advertising, marketing services that many small businesses find themselves in need of. But by and large, our counselors are there to kind of point the right direction, not to dictate anything. I think our counsel obviously comes with support from the Ohio Department of Development, so it's free. And I hope that doesn't diminish in any way the value of the services, because I think many of our small business counselors have been in business for themselves, and in our case, several of them operate businesses themselves to this day as their secondary job, if you will, or moonlighting, whatever you choose to call it, but in addition to their day job. So they're out there very much on the front lines of these very questions. So I think they're well prepared to interact and have a very down-to-earth perspective on what business owners
Well,
face.
that sort of follows the South Center's mission to enhance Southern Ohio by assisting people with informed decision making through responsive research, education, entrepreneurial application, and collaborative partnerships.
I'm glad that fits. I think it fits. I think that the other thing, in answer to Jason's question, in terms of resources, again, we don't profess to have all the answers. We have some experience to share. We have some academic background. We have some training that comes through the SBDC network. But we also can point them toward resources.
Very, very true.
By the way of
Very true.
research.
Yeah. One thing that I've noticed is when I walk into the South Centers, we talk about all these different departments all under one roof, but yet it doesn't seem that way. When you walk in, there's an environment of one. You
Yes.
can ask one simple question and someone will point you in the right direction, and you don't really know that you're going to all of these different entities. Very well put together and thought process.
Well, and it's we're OSU South Centers is but one. I feel very fortunate to be involved with the University of Rio Grande. We have only a short couple minutes, Mike.
I think Mike's given us
30
30-second
seconds.
warning.
So Tom, you have 30 seconds.
Well, I would just finish up, really respond to what Jason has observed, and I appreciate him bringing that out, that even though I talked about all those centers to begin with, and then trying to answer the questions about what do we provide through as a SBDC operation, we really try to unify things. And in other words, that you don't have to deal with 12 different people. You can deal with one person, but they're backed up by those 12 other people, because some have expertise in marketing, others in finance, others in operations and management, those sorts of things. So we try to bring things together so that it makes
collaborative effort.
simple for the client. And exactly what we want is they don't necessarily need to or care whether it's SBDC counseling or MTSBDC or cooperative development. It all comes together under that mission that Patrick is talking about.
Well, Tom, I want to truly thank you for being on our broadcast today. We hope you come back.
Well, thank you much, Pat.
Because I'm quite sure that you've only touched the tip of the iceberg.
Well, we've got other programs we could talk about, but maybe that'll be for another day.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for having me.
You have been listening to Business Talk on the University of Rio Grande Access Cable Channel 17, and we thank you for listening to our program today. I'm Jason.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Mike. Thanks for watching.